morning, or depending when you're watching this, good afternoon, good evening, or good night. My name's Ross, and as always told, out of Voice of Radio. So today, I need to tell you about this new Spiritomb card. Ladies and gentlemen, there is a new Spiritomb card, and oh my goodness, this one is gonna make a difference. Every time there's a new set, there's always one or two cards that make me go, yes! Spiritomb is absolutely one of these cards. This is the first time since we saw the Galarian Bird Trio that I've got really excited about a card. Now, obviously our translation comes from the lovely Antoine Boulet here. That's probably something you should have been able to guess. And if we start off having a look at the basics, we've got 70 HP, which on the one hand is super low, but it is more than the Spiritomb from Unbroken Bonds, and we are getting level ball back, so it ain't the end of the world. Retreat cost of 1 is nice because U-turn board, but also we're going to be using a single energy attack here, and that means that you are going to be able to have a little bit of fun with using the attack. Oh, now I've still got an energy on, I can just retreat manually. You are weak to grass for what that's worth. Spiritomb doesn't always have a weakness, but find me a grass Pokemon doing 40 damage, alright? And then I'm going to care. But if I'm honest with you, you got 70 HP, your weakness becomes really not that relevant. Now, we've also got Darkness typing here, and I really like this, because at least until we hit the rotation, we have got Black Market Prism Star, which means that you won't give up a prize when KO'd if you got Darkness Energy attached to you. And then you got Hiding Darkness Energy, which will give you free retreat, so you can always come up again in the future and not have to discard your energy to get out the active. But then we've also got Eternatus VMAX. And Eternatus needs to have a bench of 8 Darkness Pokemon. So anytime you show me a good basic Darkness Pokemon, I go, well, hang on a second, we can play that in Eternatus. Now, there is an attack here that for 1 Darkness Energy does 20 damage, and to be perfectly blunt, ladies and gentlemen, I don't care. Sorry if that sounded mean. But the good news is we have a much better attack. Seriously, 20 damage. Like, even if you've got a Vitality Band, you're doing 30. Even with weakness, you're up to 60. Like, what are you even KOing here? I mean, we could make an argument for Galarian Corsola, which evolves from Galarian Corsola, which still has 80 HP anyway, and is going to be out of range. So no, ladies and gentlemen, let's not get even a little bit excited about this. But let's absolutely get excited about the first attack, because the first attack is awesome. What we've got here is for a single colorless energy, and you know that when you're talking basic Pokemon, single colorless energy, that is the easiest tech to play in the game. For each Pokemon in your opponent's discard pile, put 1 damage counter on your opponent's Pokemon in any way that you like. Then your opponent shuffles all Pokemon in their discard pile back into their deck. Ho 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 ho! Absolutely. Make no mistake about it. This is a phenomenal, over-the-top, game-changing card. If played correctly, you already know what score I'm going to give this, but let's leave it till the end, shall we? So, why is this so good? I mean, my first reaction, and the reaction of many of you watching this video, is going to be, bye Mad Party. Because you see, Mad Party is gone. You can't play Mad Party unless nobody plays Spiritomb. Because essentially, Mad Party, your main attackers, right? You've got 60 HP Poltegeist, and you've got 40 HP Bunnelby. They're your main attackers in the game. And you want to try and get as many Pokemon with Mad Party as you like into your discard pile. So essentially, what should happen when you play Spiritomb against this is that you get minimum 2 KOs. And you put all the Mad Party members back into your opponent's deck, so they then have to re-discard them before they're actually doing any damage. Mad Party does 20 for each Mad Party Pokemon in your discard pile. So basically, no. Just no. Absolutely not. No. There is no way. The only way Mad Party survives Spiritomb is if nobody plays Spiritomb. It's an example I've given a bunch of times on this channel, but this is Durant and Heatmore level. This is, Durant from Noble Victories had that super annoying Devour attack. You discard the top card of your opponent's deck for each Durant you have in play. Hopefully 4 Durant, mill 4. And then Heatmore from Dark Explorers for 1 colorless energy. Basic Pokemon, 1 colorless energy. 10 damage. If the defending Pokemon is Durant, this attack does 50 more. And Durant, being only metal or grass, or bug, but comes as grass in the TCG, will always be taken out by Heatmore. Now, the irony is, as I've mentioned, that it's actually Darkrai stopped Durant being any good. But if anybody was ever worried about Durant, they could have played one Heatmore and been fine. If anybody is ever worried about Mad Party, they play one Spiritomb. And if they're playing any energy, unless it's specific energy that can only be attached to a specific type of Pokemon, you just have a built-in counter. Search it with a quick ball, attach whatever energy you like, and Mad Party goes down. Mad Party, if anybody plays Spiritomb, is now an unplayable deck. It is gone. And no, that's not hyperbole and I'm not going over the top. Mad Party cannot survive Spiritomb. That's just the way it is. But please, please, please do not be under the impression that that is the only reason to play Spiritomb. Spiritomb is phenomenal. And we've actually had a similar kind of Pokemon to this in the past. For players that have been around a little while, although for me this happened years into the game, it's so weird that I'm talking about, players that have been around for a while might remember this card from like 6 years into my playing career, maybe more in fact. But the Oricorio. The Oricorio, the Sensu style from Guardians Rising. For each Pokemon in your opponent's discard pile, put one damage counter on your opponent's Pokemon in any way that you like. And at the time we had Night March, where you had your kind of 30 HP Joltik and your 60 HP Pumpkaboo. And the Sensu Oricorio was just an absolutely redonkulous counter to that deck. And for what it's worth, a lot of people did tech in one Oricorio to deal with Night March. But having said that, Night March back then was way bigger than Mad Party is now. But to be clear, this is way better than Oricorio. And the reason it's way better than Oricorio is because actually making your opponent shuffle all of their Pokemon back into their deck can win you the game. So there's two parts to this effect. Let's take them one by one. The damage is easy, right? The lovely Stephen Kent, he of Playscape Games, if you're not checking that channel out, do. Stephen is awesome. He referred to it as a nice late game snipe to finish a game without boss's orders. And it's an excellent point. One that I thought as well, but I wanted to give Stephen a shout out because he's awesome. You see, late in the game, you're looking for boss's orders to bring a Pokemon active and KO them. But let's say, for argument's sake, your opponent has got 16 Pokemon in their discard pile. Well, don't boss's orders a Dedenne, just KO it with Spiritomb. Now, I know that the obvious counter-argument to this is, well, what if my opponent doesn't have 16 Pokemon in their discard pile? And I got two answers. Answer number one, yeah, fine, sometimes they're not going to play that many Pokemon. It's a one-card tech, you'll be fine. And the second part of the answer is, go on then, deliberately not discard Pokemon you want to discard. Keep them in your hand. Play a Marnie to shuffle them back into your deck, or onto the bottom of your deck. Rather than playing a Professor's Research, so you don't discard Pokemon, play a suboptimal supporter to hurt me. You see how that goes? That's pretty good for you. That's a good thing, ladies and gentlemen. So yeah, fine, there will be some games where naturally Spiritomb doesn't do much damage. But there are going to be plenty of games where either Spiritomb does, or your opponent has to make a bunch of suboptimal plays to try and protect themselves, and I am totally okay with that. But the reason this is so much better than Oricorio is because it gums up your opponent's deck. You see, if you've been playing this game for a while, you will know how important it is to thin out your deck as you go through the game. And the reason you thin out your deck as you go through the game is because late game your opponent may drop something like a Reset Stamp. Back in the day it used to be N and it was a much bigger deal, but Reset Stamp is still absolutely out there. And Reset Stamp puts you to a new hand of cards equal to your remaining prizes. So what you're going to see a lot of the time is your opponent is going to try and save their Reset Stamp, manipulate the game, so they can put you down to a 1 or 2 card hand with Reset Stamp, and hopefully you don't draw what you want. Well, now imagine this. Now imagine you Reset Stamp your opponent to 1 or 2, and they're going to draw what they're going to draw. But then you use Spiritomb, and even if you don't do that much damage, you put an extra 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, however many it might be, Pokemon that your opponent doesn't want, back into their deck. And yes, I know you're going to put Dedenne and Crobat and all of that back into their deck, but if I'm giving my opponent one more out while putting 9 cards back into their deck, I like that ratio. So now my opponent's drawing 1 card at the beginning of their next turn, but now the statistical chance of them hitting what they want is a lot lower because I've just put a bunch of junk Pokemon they don't want back into their deck. And look, if I'm going to be putting 6 Pokemon back in their deck and 4 of them are Crobat, don't play Spiritomb. Nobody's making you use this attack. My point is that if you time this correctly, you can play this late in the game, combine it with a little bit of hand disruption, and all of a sudden your opponent is a lot less likely to draw into what they want to draw into. This, for me, is a hands-down, slam-dunk, no-question 5 Wossie card. This is one of the best single-prize Pokemon we have seen in a long time. It's phenomenal. It's really hard for me to try and explain using competent sentences quite how much I love this card. This card is over-the-top, redonkulous, phenomenal, brilliant. It's great to counter Mad Party and any other decks that might come along like it. It's great to drop a bunch of damage in the late game and get cheeky KOs. And it doesn't even need to be in the late game. If your opponent's got a Pokemon with 30 hit points remaining on the bench, this gets a KO without needing boss's orders. I love it. And I also love it for just gumming up your opponent's deck with Pokemon they don't want in the late game, so all of a sudden their thinning their deck has failed. And again, if you've been playing this game for any length of time, you'll know how important it is to thin out your deck to try and make you consistent in the late game, and this will undo so much of your good work. And then, of course, it's a single prize, basic Pokemon that attacks for a single colorless energy. The only way this could be any easier to put into a deck is if it was 0 energy, and that would be, shall we say, a little bit aspirational on our part. So yeah, I think this card is redonk, and I expect it to see play in a whole bunch of decks. But I've gushed about it enough for one video. I'd like you to gush about it, and either gush about it and tell me how great it is in the comment section, or tell me why you think I'm wrong and it's overrated by me, although I honestly don't think you're going to change my mind. But hey, take it as a challenge. Go nuts. Be nice. And then make sure you like this video, subscribe to this channel, follow me on Twitter at The Wasi, and Twitch for some live action at twitch.tv/PTCG Radio. If you want to support the channel, get some bonus podcasts and all that good stuff, head on over to patreon.com/PTCG Radio, where you can do exactly that. But by far the most important thing, as always, look after yourselves till next time, would ya? Thank you very much for watching. My name's Ross, and you've been watching PTCG Radio.